check. Seems like we're good. Let's get hype. Hello, my name is Brian, and I'm here to hack on some Tiger Beetle stuff. On this stream, I have been working on the Tiger Beetle Rust client. Tiger Beetle being a high-performance financial database written in Zig. It has clients for many languages, including Java, JavaScript, Python, Go, but not Rust. So this is a project we've been doing for about 2 months now, all on stream, just to create a Rust client for Tiger Beetle. This project is a bindings project to the TB client library written in Zig that exposes a FFI. So all of the Tiger Beetle clients are bindings to this one library. In the future, we might create a pure Rust client, but step one is to just create a working bindings client. And so we've been doing this project for 2 months, and it is a nice, really bite-sized piece of Rust. Got a lot of interesting Rusty topics about FFI, unsafe programming, idiomatic Rust APIs, async programming, build system integration. A lot of typical production Rust stuff. And right now we're really on the home stretch to getting an initial PR in. This won't be the production quality client, but it will be suitable for people to look at and even try out. I expect it'll take another month or two after that to get things really polished and lovely, but we're almost ready to make a PR, and I just want to get on stream today and make another last push. Probably not the last push. It's going to take a few more streams still, but make another quick push. This might be a quick stream today. I got a few things I want to get done, just little tidbits. Nothing major today. See what we can do. Give me 1 second here. I got to mess with my lighting setup. I forgot to turn on my fill light, I think it's called. I have as you know, I'm very into my streaming setup these days. And I have a 3-point lighting setup with primary lighting, backlighting, and fill lighting. Oh, also some decorative colored lighting on the wall. All right, let's just go get into it. Here's our code. Here's our little to-do list at the top of this file. We've only been away from this for a day, so not a whole lot of housekeeping to do, but let's at least prime our workspace with cargo check and cargo build. Get that muscle memory for the commands we're going to be issuing during this session. We've recently implemented a nice little test harness as well, and finished yesterday writing a smoke test that just kind of does all of the 8 Tiger Beetle requests. And I wrote build here. That's not a cargo command. That's a cargo command. And I think we're kind of done writing tests for this initial PR. We'll promise to come back and write a real test suite as a follow-up. So here's a to-do list, and I want to do a little housekeeping on this to-do list, really kind of get things prioritized correctly. So last time we worked on this anyhow with this error, kind of replacing our temporary error handling with more appropriate fully typed error handling for the API. We have one little more thing to do there. Write some API docs. I'm going to kind of triage our to-dos. I'm going to write basic API docs, a little bit of documentation, but it's mostly going to be disclaimers about how this project is not really ready for use yet. I'm not going to go document it thoroughly until the follow-up. Then I'm going to put on our future to-do, write API docs. And I actually like writing API docs. I really value API document. I've written so many Rust API docs in my time. A lot of Rust API docs. And that's kind of the sign of a really loved library to me, is if the docs present the library well. So I value the API docs a lot. So we need to finish replacing this error, write some docs. I've been putting this off for a while. There's one step in the build script for Windows that is Windows specific, and I've been reluctant to write it without firing up a Windows development environment and testing it manually, because the nature of the thing we have to do there is not really automatically testable. Kind of it's got to go confirm that it works. But at this point, I'm really going to punt on actually testing it. I'm just going to go write the thing that I know should be there, and we're going to submit it, and we're not going to tell anybody. We're just going to assume it works. This is just API design stuff. We're not going to have a fully finished API design for the initial PR. Just give me 1 second here, check on the stream. I want to make sure everything's okay. Seems like it's working. And all right. Init, this function is not called init. This function is called new. I'm also going to clean up some of these future to-dos. I'm not just going to make them, let them bit rot. Client new should take array of IP adder, maybe? Right now, the way it parses IP address is just punted completely to Tiger Beetle. It's just a string of somethings. And then the TB client will parse it into multiple IP addresses. So it's, not, this interface here is not typed in the way it could be. And it's kind of debatable whether that's important or not. Write API docs. Assign error code numbers to every variant, add tests. So we did a lot of this yesterday where we, oh no, we did not do this. We added this to do yesterday. Yeah, so our errors are mirrors, Rust mirrors of the underlying errors that the Tiger Beetle protocol supports. So we have this right here. This is an error type. It's called result right now for compatibility with Tiger Beetle, or familiarity with Tiger Beetle, because this data type is called create account result in Tiger Beetle. So this is actually an error in our API. So we might, in fact, I'm going to go add a to-do about that right now. Create account result, create account error, etc. Question mark. It's a matter of style and taste, whether we kind of follow, in any instance, whether we follow kind of Rusty conventions or Tiger Beetle-y conventions. That's something I've been kind of wishy-washy on the stream about many times, is, whether we lean toward the Rust naming or toward Tiger Beetle naming. Of course, naming things is tough. So anyway, this create account result, the underlying API, these all have codes. And so far we have not preserved those codes, but probably the thing to do is that we carry those codes all the way up through the Rust API. So this is has some kind of numeric representation, and we give these all numbers. And they're identical numbers to the underlying API. That'll be nice for developers. Like when they see this error, they will also be able to see the code and then, relate it, cross-reference it to the Tiger Beetle documentation. So let me go up to that to-do and make sure that is worded in a way that is useful. Yeah, that makes sense. We're gonna have to add some pretty serious tests to all those duplicated enum variants to make sure they never deviate from the underlying code. This is the minimum supported Rust version. Not very important, really. Not very important, but would be nice to do this. What we do is, write a statement like this is the Rust version we support, and then we add CI for that specific version. Serious production Rust projects are generally expected these days to say this is the version of Rust, the minimum Rust version we support. So we'll do that at some point. This all looks okay. Need to provide. All right, I've kind of gotten off track. I forgot about all these important to-dos. So basic API docs, fix the build script for Windows, provide filter limit constants. I'm going to punt this. As we've discussed a few times on stream, every request, every range request, range query, has a limit on the number of things that can be returned, and they're specific to that query based on the constraints of the underlying packet size. And we're not exposing those, and they've got to be just carried, up the bindings all the way from Zig into the Rust API, but not super important right now. And like when we do our initial PR, we'll be like enumerate all these deficiencies. Just kind of like make sure that whoever's reviewing our PR knows like, yeah. I know we haven't done all this important stuff. When I write PRs, I try to, and we'll do a whole stream. When I do this PR, I'll do the whole stream just writing a PR. At least for like big PRs, I tend to be very, comprehensive in the documentation and try to stave off any anticipated critiques or complaints. Like, I know this thing is deficient. I'm going to tell you in the PR description. And probably half the time, the reviewer doesn't read what I wrote and then asks me about that exact thing that I already answered. So, calls into question whether the effort I put into writing PRs is worth it. I don't always put a lot of effort into PRs, but sometimes just it takes hours to write a PR. Basic API docs, build script for Windows, temporary README. That seems like enough for the MVP. As far as I know right now, that is what we need to do. All right, let's go back and look at the future stuff. Filter limits. This is the same thing as this one. Batch, Mac, yeah. It's a duplicate. It's not found here. Do error types. This is probably, the answer to this is probably yes. In general, for pure data types, like there's a bunch of traits that you should probably implement, like the EQ and ORD. Not ORD necessarily, but EQ is pretty darn useful. And I think we might, not important, make the generated README. So all the clients, and probably even more than the clients, but the clients all have generated README files. And I think the reason that happens is because it all feeds into the website. So when we actually want to publicize that this project is done, we have to have documentation on the website, and we got to like integrate it with the documentation's build system. And so the ultimate README will be generated for this project, but for initial, we're going to put like a little README in place that says, this is a prototype or a beta, not fully ready. It's a temporary README. This we covered last time as we were refining our request types and making them more specific. The all of our requests currently, the error type they return is packet status, because there's really only one error scenario for the request currently. But we might want to like future-proof that and like say this is like a request submit error or something. All this code is asynchronous, so there's several stages of possible failure. Like when you initially submit the request, something could fail, but then you get a future for completing the request, and there's multiple steps at which asynchronously you can get different types of errors. For the initial submission right now, there's only one type of error, but it's not really API-wise not future-proof. But I'm kind of like, this is relatively niche, a very niche product, right? I'm not going to have a huge audience for it, and we can always make API breaking changes if we find out that there are other types of errors in packet status. So I'm feeling negative about this question. Packet status is probably, or I guess positive. Packet status probably is the error type for those requests. That's interesting. I'll probably leave that there. Anyway, let's go ahead and commit this. I think we got our tasks cut out for us. That's interesting. Yeah, also, one thing we're going to have to do before we submit a PR is just kind of like go over this and visually make sure everything just looks, beautiful and acceptable, and like we're proud of every line of code that we're submitting here. But that's kind of a given. I'm not going to make that a to-do. Okay, let's finish this one. We have error stuff to make a little bit better. We have one more case here where we're using anyhow, any result right there. This needs to be a specific result type, and I think the issue here was that there's a new status enum that we have not defined in Rust yet, so we just got to go get that done. And I'm going to go to do that. I'm going to look at the tbclient.rs file. These are generated bindings to the underlying C API. As we're doing this, we cross-reference several different layers of bindings and APIs and generated code. This is the layer just below our handwritten Rust API. And so we need to find whatever this TB status is. TB status. Right here, you can see TB status. In the C world, this is an enum, but Rust BindGen, for whatever reason, wants to translate this as a, just integers. And this is interesting. So several times we've had this question about like, why are these U32s? And then sometimes in the protocol, they will not, these enum variants, these values, constants, will actually be narrowed to U8s in the protocol. But in the C world, they're U32s. But actually, the definition is not a U32, it's a C uint. And it just happens to be the case that on almost every compiler and platform that matters, the C uint type is defined as U32. I don't think the spec requires that, but as a matter of practicality, like every platform has converged on that. This just happens to be a U32 everywhere. That's my understanding, at least. Okay, anyway, this is a enum in Rust. So let's go find our other error enums and just figure out where we think it belongs. So right now we've kind of collected all of our errors in one place right here. And we have, I think there's another status something enum packet status. And you can see there's kind of a naming inconsistency with these structs. These are actually You can see one of them is called packet status. This new one we're about to do is called status. And then these two other ones, which looks like the same kind of thing, these are called result. So the naming here is inconsistent for some either semantic or accidental reason that I don't see. But these all seem like the same thing to me. And of course, in the underlying API, these enums they encapsulate both the okayness and the errorness of an operation. And in Rust, we are removing all the success variants because Rust, we have a very established pattern for accounting for either success or failure, which is the result type, and we just have to use that in Rust. So you can see our packet status does not have a OK variant. But anyway, we need to do exactly this. But I'm going to put it right here, and I'm going to call this status. It's interesting, this got such a generic name. This is the thing that is returned whenever the client submits a message. Like if the message submission fails, like before it's been transacted or processed, it's just a status, not like a message status or a request status. It's just the status of, I assume it's the status of the relationship between the client and the server, because things here can happen like, well, actually, I was thinking there was going to be something here like, client close. This is not that. Packet status that we did yesterday contains that kind of connection state information, like we're not allowed to submit anymore because we've already done a shutdown or we've been evicted by the server. This status is more like, I don't know, interesting. Doesn't really matter. Let's just go find, I think here we need to go look at, now we can copy and paste these. We need these things, and these are going to become variants. And you just got to do some textual transformation here. So we're going to replace pubconst tb status underscore with nothing. And then we can just, I said before, these all have codes that we should be carrying over, but because I haven't done it for any of the other ones, we're just forgetting about it for now. Just throwing away all those error codes. And we'll come back to that whole topic and solve it all at once later. And also down here, I need an unknown variant for the case where the server sends us something that we don't recognize. And we may be able to like structurally make this case impossible in the future. In fact, let's go add that to a to-do. Like it would be nice if this case was not actually possible, but I'm not really convinced that we can get rid of that for sure. Like what if the server sends us some like a status code we actually haven't seen? Do we really want to panic just because maybe the client version and the server version have mismatched in some way? Don't know if that's a case where a panic is appropriate. Let's say down here, where's some other error stuff? This one. Remove unknown error variants? Question mark? Okay, let's go back to our struct enum status. And now we just need to give these all appropriate names. Unexpected, out of memory, comma, address invalid, address limit exceeded, system resources, network subsystem. And now we also have to have these error descriptions. This is required by the error trait. We are deriving most of the error boilerplate here, all of the error boilerplate, but this particular derive macro requires us to specify a human readable value for each error variant. And that all feeds into the generated implementation of display for status. Unexpected. And here we're just rewording these exact names into, a human sentence instead of trying to like elaborate on what these codes mean, because fortunately they're named descriptively enough. There's not a whole lot extra information we can add. There's no error payload, right? It's just a code, and they're already named in a way that is named in a way that is descriptive enough. Sorry, I keep inserting, I'm going to go apologize. I keep inserting a register, an Emacs register that is assigned to something that is not what I think it is. System resources. Network, subsystem. No typos, no typos, no typos. Okay, let's run cargo check. And I already know that that's going to succeed. There's some kind of problem with our build system here, in that our build script, rather, it keeps rebuilding when I don't think it should be rebuilding. There's something I'm not doing correctly here. But it's not really important enough to worry about. And debugging build scripts is... So I already know that we need to implement a from conversion, just like packet status. So here's what we did for packet status. I'm just going to copy and paste this and put it roughly in the same, well, exactly in the same order as the enum declarations. And you can see here all of my, I'm going to swap windows here. Window swap. You can see here all of my, what was I just saying? What was I just about to say? Oh, yeah. All of these conversion functions are in a dedicated Rust file here. And the way that Rust trait coherency works, you can put an implementation of a trait anywhere in the same crate. It doesn't even have to be like accessible via a module path, just as long as it exists somewhere in the same crate as the type we're implementing it on. So this is all just really visually unappealing boilerplate code. I just buried all these conversions in another file. Status, and we're asserting that the value we're getting is not 0 because it's the OK value. And we have other code that handles that case. Okay, and again, we just got to do some, copy paste. Let's go find our definitions of TB packet status again. Copy these. And do some more string replacement. Get rid of this pub const. And that should be enough. Again, all this stuff goes away. And we just hand write this conversion to... I feel like I've done something wrong. These all look the same as these down here. Oh, yeah, I copied the wrong variants here. So open up my bindings again. TB packet status. We want TB status. I'm going to go over to the library and make sure I didn't screw up the definition itself. Enum status. I was just telling somebody, you can see that like I don't have like a sophisticated IDE here. I just grep everything I want to find. And somebody was showing me like a language they're designing recently. And the first thing I noticed was like, some of their declarations were not very greppable or just plain searchable. Like even in this file, like if I'm just searching in Emacs, I'm just searching textually, not even with a regex. And for me personally, it's very important that like definitions are just searchable with just plain text. Like I can say, search for enum status and find that declaration. And it's not every language designer values that. There are entire classes of language that are not very greppable. But like I'm stuck in this Emacs world where I don't have IntelliSense or anything like that, and I need to be able to grep things very fast. Not every programmer identifies with that need, though. Okay, so I want to go back to conversions. And what did I do there? TV status. This is our TV status. I'm going to take all these definitions, convert pub const, and just go drop all of this stuff. And again, I've mentioned this every time I work on this boilerplate, but eventually, there's a lot of opportunity here for typos from bugs or typos from maintenance drift in the future. And one of the things we'll do is write some very thorough tests to lock down these conversions so that the Rust declarations or Rust definitions are always guaranteed to be exactly the same as the Zig definitions. That's kind of bread and butter interop testing. So another good example of some typical Rust stuff. System resources, network subsystem, and then let's check that. Unexpected. Huh, did I not write that? Status, unexpected, unexpected. Did I typo? Unex. Cannot find value, unexpect. Ah, yes, I did typo. Just checkpoint that work. Now we actually haven't actually wired any of these types up, but I think we have everything implemented now to do it. So this is no longer an any result. This is a result of status. And then here, instead of this, we can say status.into. This is basically a conversion from a U8 into the proper error type. This could be clearer if we wrote like status from, which stylistically I do prefer. Status from status. It's very clear. But I think elsewhere in this file I've already done this, so I'm just going to do this. And I think that's it. All right, let's check. And you can probably run this test suite and see it's building my build script again. Why are you doing that? Let's just go have a look at that build script while it's working. My suspicion is this. This is a giant thing that emits a bunch of these rerun if changed, but it's only looking at Zig extensions, so this shouldn't be emitting things like Rust files. It could be, I don't know. I don't know why it's rebuilding. Not super important though. This, aha. This issue we've run into so many times with the bindings declaring confused declarations about the size of these enum variants. So this is a conversion from U8. Okay, so based on the decision of what size these status codes are in Tiger Beetle is seemingly based on protocol limitation, just like how many bytes are available in the packets. So this packet status error code is a byte in the protocol, presumably. But this one we've just done, you can see, is actually a U32. So this is a U32 right here. And we don't need this cast. This will probably type check. Yep, and now you can see none of our anyhow imports are used anymore. So we can go remove imports, and maybe we can, I don't think we can remove them from the manifest because we are probably using them in tests, but I'm not sure. Let's rip grep it. Yeah, right here in a test we're using it. This main file we don't need. We're about to go delete that. Let's not forget to delete that. And this anyhow to do, done. But we can probably say, now let's run cargo test, make sure the tests still work, and they will. This main file here, don't need anymore. Oops, sorry, I'm screwing up. My Emacs fingers are just going off on their own and making mistakes. So another thing we do, so I just deleted that main file, which was like an old manual ad hoc test program we were using, but it's no longer needed anymore now that we have a real test suite, kinda. We can go take, not that, this anyhow dependency and make it a dev dependency. So actual consumers of the crate will have one less dependency. Although almost certainly their crate graph is going to have anyhow in it, but we don't need this dependency. And we're still using, oh, we don't need, definitely don't need Tokyo in our library. And I don't think we're using Tokyo. Let's see, are we using Tokyo still? No, Tokyo? No, we're not using Tokyo at all. Let's go test that. Well, removing Tokyo will be a nice thing. Okay, I think that's a good checkpoint. Yeah, this makes sense. Let's make sure these are alphabetical. Looks all good so far. This stuff is fine for now. Build script for Windows. Now I have 3 more things on our to-do list. Let's go ahead and do this build script thing. Okay, so there's some to do in here. Not that one. I am looking at this one while we're here. Yeah, this is just the full list of architectures that Tiger Beetle currently supports. This is the case that we need to fill in. Let's see what other to-dos are in this file. Build in tree. Yeah, so there's still other cases here that might need to be supported in the future, related like platforms, but we can leave to-dos in here, and if anybody ever encounters them, that'll tell them that we need to do that still. Unix, Windows, yeah. This is the case we have to support right now. And this is just finding the name of a static library on Windows. I'm trying to use my brain to think if I still remember what the naming scheme for Windows static libraries are. And you can see this is just a directive to Cargo that says rerun if this file changes. And these are very hard to debug. Like one of these is probably causing our rebuilds that I'm not able to debug or don't want to try debugging. But like if we get this wrong, nobody's ever going to notice probably. It'll just be, sometimes it won't rebuild quite right in a way that probably nobody's ever going to even encounter, because for the most part, this will just be part of build systems and it won't matter. So the original plan was to go manually test that this works correctly by running under Windows, but most of the time when I'm working on other platforms, I just write the thing I want to work and then I throw it at the CI and let the machines build for other platforms. And that's what I'm going to do here. All right, so what is the naming scheme for Windows libraries? I bet I can just go look in one of these directories and just empirically find out. So all these pre-built binaries are in the C client directory. And then in Windows, we only have one Windows configuration. tbclient.lib. That's our static library. Okay, so we're just going to cross our fingers and assume we got that right. Seems unlikely I screwed that up. And we'll just run a cargo check just out of habit. You can see it's rebuilding our build script. Anyway, that all type checks. At some point, you know, if it doesn't complain fast, you know it's going to type check. And I can, let's mark off our to-do. We are so close to being ready for a PR. Build script. Commit. Git push. Temporary README. Basic API docs. Okay, let's start restructuring this documentation for actual presentation. I'm going to leave the to-do list right here in the comments, but you know, before the final production version, we will get rid of them. I forget what the key for commenting a region is. Ooh, that's kind of gross. Oh, I want to doc comment this region. How do I do that? I just replace the string. Replace string. Rust.comments. And when we're writing real, you know, final comments, we got to use all these line comments. So we have to spend all this time maintaining line comments. I'm a lover of block comments, but the world has reached consensus that block comments are no good for some reason. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add just turn our to-do list into documentation. That's good enough. And then that's just for my use. These will all disappear before the PR. And then up here, I'm going to say a Tiger official Tiger Beetle. And again, we're not going to spend much time on the documentation right now. Just going to get started good. And the way we structure these docs, this is a short description. So Rust docs are markdown, but they're a little special. The Rust doc will treat this as a short description on the crate. This is a work in progress client for the Tiger Beetle financial database. Tiger Beetle, I'm going to say, I think it's tigerbeetle.com. It is not yet production ready. Kind of think that's good enough for now. Don't really need to document anything else. Is that true? Is that true that we don't need to document anything else? I feel okay about that. It is not yet production ready. That's good enough. And, I'll put another space. Just my preference. I like spaces between markdown sections. I feel like that's good enough for a PR. I feel like that's good enough for a PR. What was I about to do? To-dos. Okay, done. And why don't we go ahead and just generate these docs, give them a little peek. But I don't think I'm going to write more before the PR. Oh gosh. Sorry, my muscle memory is forgetting tmux now. New session HTTP. I'm running an HTTP server. This is my own HTTP server that I use all the time in development because I need to read HTML and Markdown all the time. This HTTP server does automatic conversion of Markdown to HTML when I use this X flag. I really like this project and I use it all the time, but it's not up to date. At some point, somebody submitted me a PR to bring this project up to date, maybe add some features, and I didn't want to face it, so I just ignored that PR, and it's been sitting there for several years. So at some point, I got to face the music if I ever want to update this project and go be like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't take your PR. I know I don't have to feel bad about it. Like PRs languish all the time, but I do feel bad about not looking at a PR. But I really like this project. All right, remember to go back and show you my code. Let's look at our build. Okay, so we built docs. So let's go look at some Brave. This is the browser. Not super tied to Brave, but the thing I like about Brave is the profiles. You see I've got all these little neat profiles. I know there's things like this in other browsers, but I find these very useful. Though on my personal computer, I'm mostly using Firefox, but I found these, especially for streaming, these are nice little ways to containerize the things that are public and the things that are secrets and things like that. Anyway, can you see that on stream? Oh, you can't even see that pop-up window on stream. Oh well. What am I looking for? Localhost. And you can see here, this is my HTTP server. So it just gives me a directory listing, and I can go zoom into whatever I'm looking for. This is the Tiger Beetle directory. So I need to find the client directory, Rust. Oops. Targets are in the, or docs are in the target directory, doc. And I've always disliked that cargo/rustdoc doesn't generate us a landing page right here. We got to go find the name of our crate that is the crate we're interested in, which is Tiger Beetle. And here is our docs. Okay, so our one link works. This all looks okay. I'm going to put a period right there. I'm going to go back to the code and put a period there. In general, I'm on the side of using complete sentences with complete punctuation and capitalization, except in error descriptions for whatever reason. All right, back to the browser. Let's look at our docs some more. This is, doesn't look great, but it's all temporary. Structs. I just want to look at what our client API looks like. This looks pretty good. One thing to consider is that sometimes APIs, you don't want to be returning these unnamed futures. Like this is just some future that is just automatically generated by the compiler. A lot of, especially like core APIs like you find in the standard library, like every iterator has a name. It doesn't just say, I'm going to return you some iterator. Because if you wanted to store this type somewhere, you can't give this type of name. So any caller who wants to maybe like store their query accounts future, they can't name this type and say, this is a container of this type. This is a container of query accounts futures. Though they could, box this or maybe put it behind a reference. Box this maybe. Like box this as a dynamic future, what they're calling a dynamic. I don't know. The Rust project has changed what they call dynamic objects recently. Anyway, no tangent here. Just looking at my beautiful API. When I'm like on the cusp of finishing up a project, I spend a lot of time just like admiring it and being like, oh, I love what I've done here. And it's making little tweaks. We're not really at that stage yet, but this looks fine. This looks fine. Let's go back to our code. Let's go back to our code. All right, where are we? What have we done here? Okay, we wrote some docs. All right, only other thing on our to-do list is to write a little README. And again, in other clients, this README, let's go actually look at precedent here and see what the other clients have. And we'll do the Go one because the Go one is reputed to be the best. Yeah, okay, capital README. So we're going to need a readme.md, and you can see here the actual production quality README is generated. But I'm not going to do that yet because the generated stuff feeds into the website, and I'm not ready to publicize this project yet. So I don't really care about hooking up all this document generation yet. And then I'll do one of the caveats that we put on the PR to be like, yeah, I know. This is a thing we need to do, but I'm not doing it yet. Is that okay with you? What do you have to say about that? I always get a little frustrated when I'm like, I know I'm not doing this, and I told you this is exactly why I'm not doing this thing, but you're still asking me to do it anyway. Just give me a little grace and let me do the thing I want to do. I know I'm just like ranting about a hypothetical right now. See, this is website stuff. So I'm going to say the Tiger Beetle client for Rust. Actually, I'm going to kind of format it exactly like it's going to end up, but I'm not going to bother doing all this right now. But actually, you can see here the Go README, the Go client README seems to actually be a pretty good reference for how to interface with Tiger Beetle in general. It's quite detailed. I don't know if we're going to do that for Rust or not, but I kind of probably think I should. Like, I want the Rust client to be the best Tiger Beetle client. So if the Go client is currently the best, I want to get like as good and then raise the bar just a little. We'll see if I still feel that way when it comes time to actually write writing a lot on stream is going to be interesting. What is this? That's kind of strange. Let's look at the other ones and see if like Java has, I mean, it must be like a convention specific to our documentation generation. Yeah. Okay, get rid of that. And go ahead and add this front matter here and just kind of do it. Tiger Beetle Rust. And I'm probably just going to copy the disclaimer verbiage directly from the README. And then throw early adopters a little bit of a bone here and explain how to build this. I'm explaining that you have to have the full Tiger Beetle source code presently to build this project. I'm not going to test this. I'm just going to write what I think you need to do. All right, that makes sense. Then create a client. I'm not going to like really go into detail here, just a little breadcrumb to get people started. This is not Rust code, this is TOML code. This is Rust code. And this is going to say let client, I think our clients need to be mutable. I'm not going to test this code at all. I'm just going to write. No, clients are immutable. We don't call a mutable self. Yeah. Let client equals tiger beetle dot colon client new. And actually, I'm just going to copy from our one test case. Use tiger beetle as TB. And then we can just copy and paste what we've already got. You know, just a breadcrumb. Not going to explain anything. We're just going to say, this is what you should do. Let's see if I can remember how to delete all this space. Delete. No, delete rectangle. Ah, there we go. That looks more or less correct. And we can get rid of one of these accounts. And we can say print line. And we'll leave a certain to say, yeah, here's how you do make a request and see what the request did. That's a good enough breadcrumb to get people started. And this is not a variable that exists. We'll call this 1, 2, 3. This all looks like it will plausibly compile if somebody copy pastes it. All right, let's see what this looks like. I mean, this residual syntax or residual code highlighting is annoying me. I copied this into this buffer and it came in yellow. I kind of don't remember how to get rid of it. Fundamental mode, markdown mode. I don't have a markdown mode. MD mode. Yeah, whatever. Anyway, let's go look in the browser what this looks like. Y'all, we are so close to getting a PR ready. I don't think I'm going to do that today, though, because that's going to require effort, thinking, hard thinking. I kind of want to make that its own stream, writing a PR. All right, back to the browser. And where was that markdown at? Right here. And again, this is just that non-markdown front matter that lives in this file. And this is whatever convention for H1 headers that the Tiger Beetle doc system is using. It's all temporary, but this looks good enough. I don't see any typos. I never spell check. Never spell check. I'm not against spell check, but maybe deep down inside I'm against spell check. Just never do it. Okay, let's add that and go back to our to-do, and all of our PR to-dos are done. Let's push this and let's start cleaning up this history and get it ready. So for 20 episodes now, 20 streams, I've been disclaiming my horrible practices of my sloppy Git history practices. But now it's time to make the history look okay. Git reset origin main and status. Right, this is everything we're PRing. And actually, let's see let's add this first. And let's go to the Rust directory and see how many lines we actually wrote. I don't know how many hours this project has been, but it's been 20 streams, and they've all been at least an hour, usually more like 2 hours, sometimes 3. And in the end, we wrote 1,700 lines of code, which is great. I like small projects, but it took a lot of streams to write that 1,700 lines of code. And we need to give this commit a better name. Add an initial Rust client. I think that's kind of good enough. Most commit messages these days are not held to be that important. All the writing about commits has moved to PRs. So I mostly don't write big commit messages anymore. And let's push this. You can see we are building directly off of 0.1623. It was released yesterday. And we rebase, so we have to force push. And we're getting so close. Let's go ahead and, all right, we're going to finish up soon, so it's not going to be a long stream. This all looks good. Let's just give a once over. Needless lifetimes. I'm going to leave that. Let's see what it looks like if we take this out. Let's see what this lint says. I turned this lint off because I liked there were some lifetimes in some of our fairly complex function signatures that I thought were useful docs, but the compiler said, nah, this is the default, so you don't need to write this. Oh. Well, it's no longer saying that. That's interesting. Well, I'm glad I checked. I don't know why it changed. Let's look at it had to do with this S here. So it used to believe that this was not necessary. Maybe at the time I was not actually capturing S, or maybe I didn't have a second reference here with a potential lifetime naming conflict. But anyway, the lints have completely gone away. And now I'm just going to be amending this one pristine commit, no longer making a sloppy commit history. You want this one perfect commit. Let's make sure all these are in some kind of sensible order. Oh, you know what we can do? Now is the time that we have to kind of bite the bullet and run cargo format and cargo clippy and make sure those are clean. I've talked about this on stream before, but I don't love those tools. But for production projects, you genuinely just have to do whatever they say for the sake of making everybody else's lives better during maintenance. It's best not to color too far outside the boxes of Rust conventions. In my own projects, I go crazy and write Rust code however I want to write it, and I turn off all the things that I don't like. But for production codes, I just do generally everything that those static analysis tools say to do. Well, let's go ahead and do that. Let's see, I want to format first. And we formatted this before. If you'll notice, this file right here, our conversions file, this has some, in my opinion, pretty ugly formatting. And in fact, I might reformat this by hand and tell Rust format to leave these alone completely, because this is ugly. Yeah, why don't we do that today? And it'll be a neat thing to show on stream that, yeah, you can turn off Rust format when you really want to. Yeah, this just looks so bad. Okay, let's format first. Let's start the baseline and say cargo format and just get everything looking the way cargo wants it to look. Let's see what it did. That's interesting. Just move this brace down. I don't hate that. Kind of wonder why it did that though. It didn't do it for everyone. I'm wondering if this just hit the long lines limit or something, because that inconsistency that this is going to be formatted differently than every other method is kind of a bummer. So I might go back and tell it not to do that, because having some of these method declarations with this brace on one line and some on a different line, aesthetically does not make a lot of sense to me. All it does presumably is satisfy an arbitrary long lines limit. Okay, it reordered our imports alphabetically. Kind of makes me wonder if we wanted to treat the std imports specially, could we separate them by a space and have it not reorder all of them? I kind of want to check that actually. I actually don't have like a git reset. I don't actually have a standard convention for myself about what order imports should be. My basic feeling about imports is just like have a tool lay out the imports whatever way it wants to do, because it's just not important. but like everybody has their own preference. Like you should be alphabetical, but maybe stood should be separate because they're kind of special. You should use a lot of like nested multiple imports, or you shouldn't. It's so unimportant. I'd just rather have a tool just do it like cargo format just did. But like, what I want to see here is like, if we, just out of curiosity, if we put stood down here and all our other non-stood imports up here, will cargo format leave these alone and leave these down here and then just reorder these up here? And go ahead and put these in a different order just to see how cargo reorders them. Get cargo format. Yeah, and you can see it. Oh, there it is. Yeah, you can see it just took all the imports and reformatted them exactly the way it wants to, which is fine. What did I just do? I just did that. What is this? What is this? Huh. I kind of don't even understand why it did this. Probably just a rule that for multi-line method chains, it always starts the method colon another line. That is not pleasing to me, but whatever. Same thing there. Yeah, I much prefer my formatting here to what Rust format likes. But we are not going to complain. I mean, I'm going to complain right here, but I'm not going to complain. I'm going to complain right here. Okay, this all looks fine. What does our commit history look like? Okay, we're still just appending to our one pristine commit. So cargo format is done. But like I said, let's go back and look at this file where the formatting is particularly egregious. And let's format these the way we want them to be, because this just looks gross. And so these will end up having long lines. I'm kind of curious whether so Tiger Beetle has its own custom linter. And I'm kind of curious whether it extends to non-zig files. Like, will the Tiger Beetle long lines lint pick up these lines? Because even these reformatted lines look like they're, let me see, super long. Yeah, there's 162 lines right here, columns right here. And there's no fixing that. There's going to have to be long lines. So yeah, let's go back and, oh, this is interesting. So yesterday, I added this assert here to assert that we don't try to convert a 0 successful status to our error type. But I didn't notice that we already have that case covered right here. And I like this better. So let's take another little bit of yak shave to make things just slightly more perfect. We're at that stage now where we're just making things beautiful. I like this pattern better. It's more consistent. Let's look at the cases, not this one special case. Let's do this for all of these. Yep, this one's already got it. So basically, I just didn't do it down here on these two new ones. This should be tvclient.rs. Yeah, interesting. You can see these two just have a slightly different convention. Give me 1 second here. My beanie's pulling on my scalp, and it's a little painful. I'm already, you can see, starting to go. And somebody suggested to me once that, maybe wearing a hat all the time and having it pulling on your scalp does not help with hair loss. But I don't know if that's true or just like a fear. Anyway, I'm taking a little break right now. I'm I'll walk around over here. One thing I want to do, and I'm sorry I'm not by the mic, but you can still hear me. I've mentioned this before, but I want to put a camera right up there for a big wide shot of the whole studio. I have a very cute little studio here. I'm just going to pace around a second. Ooh. Where's my headphones? Oh, I'm wearing my headphones. Okay, let's do this. Back to the code. Yeah, you can see here in this type, they call the successful result okay. But in the one we are working on here, it's called success. So let's go down here and just do the same pattern here. TB status, success, unreachable. And it's interesting, I'm saying this is unreachable, but this is not actually true because this code is visible to consumers of this crate. So unreachable is for something that we believe is literally logically impossible, but that's not the case here. So unreachable is probably not the correct panic macro, but we'll revisit that in just a second. TB packet status, TB packet success. Let's compile that and make sure those are correct. Looks like it is. Yeah, so a caller could invoke this conversion method on a 0, or they could invoke it on an undefined variant. So really what we want to do here is say not unreachable, but what is appropriate here? Just a plain panic? I can't think of there's a number of these panic macros in Rust. What would indicate, like an assertion would indicate to a caller like that they did something incorrect. Panic doesn't really say that. So the previous code we had there with the assert might actually be the right way to do it. Now that I'm thinking about like the user experience, like if they just see a panic, it's going to be like, huh, did I do the wrong thing? Or was the code wrong? Panic. I think it doesn't matter. In reality, nobody is ever going to do this thing. Nobody's ever going to invoke this case. So let's just not overthink it. And, oh, you can see that actually I named these incorrectly. Both of them. Huh. I'll give you a second to look at this, these warnings if you really care. But it's telling me that I was trying to create this. I was trying to use this constant, but it's not a constant actually. TB status success. That looks like I spelled it correctly. Huh. Matches any value. Why would that be? Importing TB status success. I don't get it. I actually don't get it. Let's run this again and see. Have it tell us again what it thinks. TB. Oh, it's just TB packet status. This one is okay. I must not have named this one correctly. TB packet status. This one's okay. Yeah, I'm really thinking the naming here is just a unintentional inconsistency. One of these types uses okay. One of these types uses success, and the others all use okay. Feels like just a mistake. Kind of wonder if that's something I should like go try to fix, but I don't really think so. Okay, let's commit this. And now, let's run cargo format one more time just to see if it has any more opinions, and it does. Okay. Now let's go reformat these cases. I'm kind of bummed that I ever let this happen in the first place, because this is kind of tedious to reformat this by hand. So what we're going to do here is we're going to format. The current formatting is the way that cargo format wants this to look, and it just doesn't have a lot of taste in this case, where it's looking at these giant identifiers and long lines. It is not a very tasteful machine in this case. Rust format is actually very, very cool, if not overly flexible. Like, yeah, Rust format allows you to configure it in a lot of ways. But really, I kind of agree with the Go approach. There's just like one way. Like, who cares about formatting? Although in this case right here, I do care about formatting here, and I am grateful that Rust format will allow us to tell it to ignore this function. But I guess if it was my preference, I would say there's one way to format, but if you want to, you can turn it off on a function or module basis. I don't think I've ever actually configured Rust format's formatting, though I would like to at some point kind of like develop, for my personal projects, my own preferred formatting style. Like, personally, I don't care about long lines. Like, I like my lines to be tasteful. I don't care about having a specific line length. I wonder if you could use an LLVM to create like a AI assisted formatter, where you can be like, the AI can do the process of looking at the results of Rust format and being like, nah, this is not tasteful. Like, have the LLM introduce a little bit of judgment. I like that idea. That seems very doable. I was talking with a Rust developer the other day, a compiler developer, and they were talking about how enthusiastic they are about the prospect of using LLMs to explain errors even better than the compiler already does. But it's a tough sell to actually bake that kind of thing into the compiler. Definitely the way to do it is to create an add-on tool that proves the benefit and have people adopt that kind of thing in the community, where it's like, and kind of clamor for it, be like, we need this cool new tool because it's so good. But like Rust, the compiler has, notoriously great error messages, but still sometimes it does not intuit like what you mean, and it tells you to do the wrong thing. Like, those false positives are kind of a killer. I've definitely seen less experienced programmers, Rust programmers, be like, just go off the deep end thinking what the compiler is telling it is true when it's not. And of course, LLMs are also terrible at figuring out what's true. But maybe some kind of like reinforcement thing there would result in fewer false positives and fewer suggestions that are just wrong. I hope I haven't made any new typos while I've been mindlessly data entrying here. Let me turn on some music for y'alls. I thought I was in C minor there, but apparently not. Anyway, that's what happens when I get bored of data entry. I do a little bad synth solo. Someday they'll turn into good synth solos, though, and then it will all be worth it. I'm also learning electric guitar right now. I've suddenly developed a great passion and desire for electric guitar. I've been learning a little bit of piano playing over the last few years, but I've never really gotten, I hate that. I never really gotten into piano. But suddenly I've started playing like fretboard drills on the guitar, and it's just feeling like great. And I can kind of like see like, well, yeah, this is like mini steps, but it resembles some shredding that I appreciate. Like another few steps away and I'll be shredding. And then who's going to stop me after I'm shredding? Nobody can stop me when I'm shredding. I just wish I could shred. Look at these long lines. These are some extra large lines. Watch me do all this work and then find out that the Tiger Beetle lint also hates this code. Then I'll have to figure out how to... We'll do that next. We'll go run the Tiger Beetle lint. That'll take time. Maybe I can do some more jamming. I know you're excited about that. Any downtime spent compiling is time I can jam. That's what I really want. This dead air right now, but you got some background music and clickety clacks. Background music and clickety clacks. That's what I got for you on this stream today. Oh, look at how much more beautiful that is. Super long lines, but it all looks lovely. Okay, let's commit that. And remember how to tell Rust format not to reformat something. I'm going to take a guess and say Rust make makes some intuitive sense, but doesn't really. Yeah, let's Google it. Let's gazoogle it. Let's just add chat. Let's say Rust format ignore block of code attribute question mark. Let's see how Brave's AI search does. Rust format skip. That's it. Rust format : skip. Back to the code. Rust fumped. Skip. Down here. Rust fumped. And let's say get diff. And let's just go for it and say cargo format and hope it doesn't. Oh, it did. What's the deal? I'm gonna revert this buffer. Oops, I didn't mean to. I did the wrong thing. Okay, let's blow this away. Git checkout force. And start over. Oh, this is not a function that we need to stop the formatting of. This one. And this one. Now let's try it. Great, there we go. So history looks good. Let's force push that. Okay, this all looks great now. And this all looks great-ish. I'm just sorry, I'm looking at this thing and I'm wondering, why did I put that expect there? Because again, this conversion function is not private to the crate. Anybody can call this, and they could fill up this thing with invalid flags. But at the same time, I feel like, if they create a struct that is not valid, we can panic. It's fine. Now I'm looking at this and seeing what is this and why did I do this way. Gotcha. There's a conversion in the other direction. Okay, let's do it what we said we were going to do and go check out what the Tiger Beetle lints look like right now. So remember how to do this. I'm going to say zig build run test tidy. The lints, Tiger Beetle's lints are part of the test suite. So we're going to say build test, and then I think we can limit it to just tidy by doing that. And I did it wrong. Maybe this is just test? No. Oh, I see. This is what I screwed up. All right, now this is going to go for a while. We can just hang out and chill. I'll just dance over here for a while. See if maybe I'll incorporate dancing into this stream. Oh, something happened. Oh, Tidy is looking at the Rust stuff. Bad extension. Okay, this is a thing we got to resolve. Let's do it. Wait, we can do some Zig. Doing Zig on my stream. Finally, Zig on a Tiger Beetle stream. This is looking like it's at tidy.zig 755, source tidy 755. Tidy 755, bad extension. So somewhere in here, we're looking at allowed extensions, and then there's an exceptions list. It's probably just a list of files that are allowed to not be tidy. let's go look at allowed. I'll leave this over here, and on the left side we'll go up. I get it. Tidy lints are expressed as unit tests, so this is a tidy lint, but it's also a Zig unit test. Allowed extensions. Ooh, I hate this. This table formatting. This is something that Zig's formatter likes to do. I don't hate this, but I have run into problems with this formatting before. Zig's formatter likes to, in some cases, Zig's formatter is not as sophisticated as Rust's. In some cases, it likes to make this really pretty table format, but then like when you have to maintain it, you got to go like figure out where things go and insert something, and then your formatting is going to be gross, and you have to run, and you can run Zig format, and Zig will reformat it as a nice table. But also, this table formatting causes huge ugly diffs. Like if you change anything in here, essentially the whole table is a diff because it's going to all get reflowed. And I've run into cases in Tiger Beetle maintenance where it's like a high contention list of things that was formatted in tables kind of generates a lot of conflicts. So if a lot of people are inserting new things in here, then they're going to have a lot of conflicts just because the nature of the diff of these reflowed tables. So I don't love this. I mean, I don't mind it. It looks beautiful like this, but as a practical matter, it seems anti-maintenance. It's a pretty minor thing. But there is one table like this that I was like, I'm sick of my merge conflicts. I'm going to reformat this in just a flat list instead of this pretty table. But anyway, right now I have to put something in here, and it should probably be alphabetical. So I got to go like figure out, I probably need to put multiple files in here. We have both RS, TOML, and lock are all disallowed. So yeah, don't love this. Don't love this. So yeah, I don't love this. JKL. So I'm going to say .lock and then .toml, OPQRS, toml, .toml, .lock, .toml, and then .rs. I'm going to PQRS. .rs. And look at how I've had to do this. Like, my quality of coding here is decreased by this pretty table. And basically, all I can do here is say zig fump dot. Let's reload this. And now it's all reflowed. So this whole table is a diff. But let's run this tidy again. Anyway, that's a very minor nitpick. And in some situations, having beautifully unconventionally formatted source code is very nice. Status. Okay, so we're formatted. So now finally we have done an edit of the Tiger Beetle code base. In 20 streams, we have only lived in our own Rust world, but finally we edited some Zig. Now we also have to run, I think that's it, tidy. So I think we passed the tidy suite, and we are not going to hook this into the test suite. And in fact, let's go back to our to-dos and say I'll just prioritize where I want to put this. Right here. Not a high priority, but set up CI. So our initial PR, I'm going to be like, I'm not going to set up CI because I remember we looked at this on stream a few streams ago and I was like, I don't get it. We're just going to have to ask somebody on the PR to tell us what to do. And actually we will do that as part of the PR because once this code is in stream, we do want to make sure that at least builds. But we'll do that on the PR, is ask like, how do we do CI? So let's push. And all right. I think we're done. I think we are ready to make a PR. I'm not going to do it today because again, it's going to take a lot of thinking and writing to make a good PR. But I think we've kind of accomplished our goal. Like one more stream and we will have accomplished the goal that we have had for this entire series so far. So that's a relief. All right, my name is Brian. We're gonna wrap up. My name is Brian Burson on GitHub, BRSON. My GitHub pages has my socials. I usually do these streams irregularly, but I announce them 10 minutes ahead of time, either on the Tiger Beetle Slack or my Mastodon account. And very soon, now that we've almost got this whole series up to the PR done, we will put the whole playlist of 20 episodes so far up on YouTube for posterity. I think that's it for today. I appreciate everybody, who has helped me out on this stream so far, showed up in chat and chit-chatted. I'm very grateful for that. I'll see you all next time.